Hey, ladies, good afternoon. It's Mocha Mommy here. Um, I'm just here to go live because I really feel as if code is a discussion that we really need to have. Okay. And I see myself making mistakes. In fact, I've made a mistake today as far as like code, and it's something I've done before too on social media where I've made a mistake with not staying on code with what it is that I need to do as a content creator, especially as a content creator that has a younger audience. Okay, so here here's the example. Okay, there is a content creator who, in my opinion, and I think a lot of other people will agree with this, that makes level up content probably the most well-rounded level up content here in the YouTube space. All right, and I think a lot of people will share that opinion because this is a content creator who makes incredible level up content. But this person comes from like a different faith background than me, and I feel like I point that out too much. Like, why would I do that? Like, there's no benefit in me doing that. Like, I think people know that already. So why do I keep doing that? So ultimately, that's like where I'm lacking in code, and I'm just gonna do a better job of that. You know, as far as like staying on code, like yeah, we could have like differences as people, but we don't have to keep pointing them out. And I'm going to do better when it comes to that. Like as far as like staying on code and being more supportive of content creators who make content that benefit the collective of Black women. So I'm going to do a much better job of that um, in my real life and in my YouTube life. Like I'm going to do a much better job because it doesn't serve the conversation for me to bring up where I'm different. If so many things that if so many things are the same, like even if like you're on the same page when it comes to something, focus on that so that you can get where you need to get, right? Focus on that so you can get where you need to get. And yeah, I'm going to do a better job of that. I'm going to do a better job of staying on code. I know that Aya Mizra, he's made some. Hello, Goldie. Hi. Good afternoon. How are you? I'm going to do a better job of staying on code. I'm going to do a better job, and I know like Aya Mizra kind of had a live about it, and he put a couple of things up on his page. I think it was like Normani was like twerking in a dress, right? And people were like, "Black women, we got to do better," and he was saying like we already get a lot of criticism as Black women. Like, let's not add to it. Now, I definitely see what he's saying. Would I go and twerk in a dress? No, I wouldn't. Would I encourage my daughters to twerk in a dress? No, I wouldn't. Would I encourage any of you ladies to twerk in a dress at a formal event? No, I would not. But what I'm not going to do is get on social media talking about no, money don't need to be doing this, right? That's what I mean by staying on code. Because I think presenting a little bit more of the united front, or if you don't agree, saying nothing, I think would be to our benefit. Um, because even though separating on ourselves and distinguishing ourselves is important for us as Black women, dragging other Black women down to make that distinction is not what's going to be helpful, right? Dragging other Black women down to make that distinction is not going to be helpful because people already make that distinction. I mean, I kind of get compared a lot at work. I was kind of getting compared a lot to um, because I had natural hair and I spent a lot of time in urgent care and nursing room, nursing, and then in nursing, like I was in emergency room nursing, urgent care nursing. People were kind of like comparing me to Yaya DaCosta's character on Chicago Med. I don't even watch that show, so I don't even know if she was a good character or a bad character. Hi, book 6,000. Hi. So I don't know, but I just knew that people were kind of like associating me with that character. Nobody associated me with like somebody ratchet or somebody twerking, but just wearing natural hair in a hospital setting. You know, first of all, y'all that Costa's a beautiful woman. And so if somebody's going to make that comparison, I'm going to take that. I'm going to embrace that. Like if somebody's going to, so people make their distinctions already. So there's no need for me to drag another black woman down if she's doing something I don't agree with. And there's also no need for me to continue to point out differences if that black woman has something that helps us as a collective. And I'm going to do a much better job of that. I'm going to do a much better job of that because I can definitely see how that doesn't help. It doesn't help the situation. Um, so, yeah, I'm going to do a better job of staying on code in that respect. Where, yeah, I'm going to do a better job. Um, I also think that there was like a misunderstanding too of code in the video that I had made about um, Ruslan KD and Hafiz from the Roommates podcast. I think there was also too like a code conversation there that was done pretty well, in my opinion. Like that's a pretty good example of code where on this public platform they made it a point to stick to the topics that they agreed to, and where there was differences he let Hafiz explain himself, right? Didn't really go in and attack him for the differences, but he kind of let him explain himself. It was kind of pretty clear that Ruslan didn't like his answers, but he was not going to like say that publicly and argue with him about it. They were just going to keep moving. Hi, Robin. Good morning. Or good afternoon, wherever you are. Um, but he was not going to say that like publicly. And then when the conversation ended, you kind of saw how Ruslan was like, yeah, let's get you involved in like a really good men's ministry. Let me help you. Let me reach out to my network so they can kind of bring you in. Right. Because he sees I guess like the potential, he sees the influence, he sees the intelligence. And I think he wants what's best for him. But I also think he understands um, Hafiz's content and his audience. Hafiz has a very good understanding of his audience. And I think that you ladies, um, especially you ladies who are very worried about this type of content and the proliferation of this type of content, I think if you listen to this conversation in entirety, they know who their audience is. Okay. These type of content creators, I've also heard O'Shea when he was on Ian Mizra's platforms and the Honest Truth platform in the past, they know who their audience is. Okay. This is kind of why I think we as a demographic of women don't shouldn't really fear the proliferation of it. That's my opinion, but you ladies can make your own conclusions, but they know who their audience is. Hi, dark skinned gentlewoman. Hello. But this is kind of like they know they know who their audience is. Okay, ladies, they know who their audience is. So make no mistake about it. So this was a really good conversation of like how to best stay on code, right? Publicly, we'll present a united front, but offline, we'll talk about some of the things that are our differences, or just not to bring them up at all, right? Just not bring it up at all because we just really don't need to be doing this publicly. Um, it was real clear that he's like, all right, let me get you to my connections offline, right? Let me get you to my connections offline so that we can discuss this, or just better not discuss it at all, right? Just kind of we came together for this one thing, and then we can go our separate ways, or like we can come together on these particular subjects, but if we don't see eye to eye on this subject, I'm going to make a better effort to leave it alone. So I'm going to give credit to Uppity Unicorn for this one, because give credit where credit is due. I was kind of having some problems, like understanding like my oldest daughter. Okay, I was having some problems, like understanding her priorities, definitely her aesthetic, her aesthetic for sure. Just understanding the direction, her career choices, her educational choices, especially now um, that she's a senior and she's going to be moving forward, and like the decisions she's making now are going to impact her career in the future. She's like in a lot of AP classes, in a lot of vocational education classes. That's here, you can take that. Hi, Morbid Dom, thank you so much for always being so supportive of our platforms. You really are a really great supporter, so thank you so much for that. um so and then kind of Up the Unicorn bought like, oh well, this actually is this is a community, right? Hi, happy Labor Day to you too, Yogo. Hi. Um, so Uppity kind of bought to the fact that, hey, there's a community of young Black people who have this aesthetic, who there's like a movement of young Black people that you might not be aware of. And I looked into it, and she was right. Uppity was right. Uppity Unicorn was right, because it's like I heard the music. Like I've heard Willow Smith's music through my daughter. I've heard Kenny Hoopla's music through my daughter. But what I had not seen was the aesthetic. I hadn't seen it. I hadn't like looked at the videos. I hadn't looked at their live performances. Had she not brought that up to me, I wouldn't realize that, okay, she's a part of a tribe here, right? And thank God that somebody brought that up to me, brought that to my attention, because now I'm able to say, like, why do you dress like that? Now I understand. Okay. And now that my daughter, she has like a mentor now, and this mentor comes from a different like three-letter Greek organization than I'm a part of. Okay. And she's kind of like, she's like a part-time yoga instructor, an artist. Um, she like macrames, and she makes her own granola. She's like, basically she's like a Black Gwyneth Paltrow, right? That's what my husband like says about her. But let's kind of stay on code for the sake of like helping my daughter achieve her goals and her dreams. We can let the differences, and she's also a vegan, and so my daughter's like looking into it. um and I'm thinking to myself, okay, how can I be a little bit more conscious when it comes to groceries and things like that, to make sure that she still feels included. Because I don't want to be like one of these, well, not in my house, you ain't gonna be no vegan in my house. I don't really want to do that. Like I don't want to do that. I feel if this is something she wants to explore, like maybe I can collaborate with this woman, um to find out where she shops, as opposed to putting ourselves on these two different planes, as like I'm right and you're wrong. Because I kind of understand, like I kind of grew up in that Black excellence generation, right? Lady Daydream, hi. Ladies, Lady Daydream just uploaded today, guys. Really check out her content. She makes some great content. So ladies, so check her out for sure. And the mentor, she's a cool person. She is a cool person. But it was a little bit hard for me to understand her, because when you come out of like that 80s, like that Black excellence type of generation, where you were all supposed to act a certain way and talk a certain way and be a certain way, like part of that like Black excellence culture that sometimes is like, is a hurt and a hindrance to some of us, right? It's hard for me to understand where she's coming from a different three-letter Greek organization. It's not that she's bad, it's not bad, but it was not where we were coming. It was not where I was coming from. So now I can see like, all right, um, as opposed to saying like this is the right way to do it. Hi Lori, good afternoon, how are you? As opposed to putting us kind of like against each other or putting myself up as like an opposing force, we can both work together because we both want what's best for my daughter. And so when I say this kind of aesthetic here, like Willow Smith and Kenny Hoopla, right? Travis Barker, um, oh, hi, happy, Richland, pretty. Um, yeah, because I know it takes a village. Like I know as a mother, it takes a village, right? Yeah, yeah, because I know it takes a village. I know that I can't do it all, and I think that I don't think there's a single mother out there who does think that, right? I don't think there's a single mother out there who thinks that. So, hi, dark and lovely. Um, oh, I'm really sorry to hear that. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. I don't want that from my daughter. I just don't want that. Like I'm like I'm making chicken and rice tonight. There's really nothing that can stop me from like putting some pinto beans on the side for her because I know rice and beans is a complete protein. Um, so yeah, I just think I just don't think there's a need for that. I don't think there's a need to. I don't want to. Because what if it works out for her, and what if it doesn't? I don't. It's not worth it. So what I mean to say is like both Kenny Hoopla, both Willow Smith are part of a community, and Travis Barker is kind of the mentor for these two young artists, right? How I might feel about Travis Barker or how the parents of Kenny Hoopla and Willow Smith feel about Travis Barker, no one can deny his impact on the genre that those two children are entering. I can't even say children, that these two young adults are entering. Nobody can deny his impact on that industry, no matter what differences they may have with Travis Barker on whatever level. And I think that Jada is a really good mom to Willow Smith, right? Because Jada's a creative and she has a daughter that's a creative. But what if Willow Smith's mom was like Condoleezza Rice? Oh, thank you, Robin R. I appreciate that. Um, hi, KB. But I just don't. I just want us to be more on code, right? I just want us to be more on code as Black women as far as our social media presence. So I'm going to make a commitment to do a better job. All right. Like I'm going to do a better job when I talk about how my daughter dresses. I'm going to do a better job when I talk about content creators who have different belief systems. I'm going to do a better job. I'm going to do a better job of being on code. Um, because thanks to Uppity, I kind of see that my daughter's part of a community that just because I'm not a part of it doesn't mean that it's not real. And that there are mentors in that community that will do a better job at guiding her through it than I ever could. You know, kind of like this situation right here. Like, and had it not been for her, I wouldn't have looked at the visuals because I heard the music because my daughter plays the music. I've heard the music. I know who they are. I can identify their songs on her playlist whenever she links it to the car and plays it. But once I saw the visuals, I got to see what it was she was saying. And thank God that somebody pointed that out. Thank God somebody pointed that out. So shout out to Uppity for that one. Um, but yeah, there's just kind of a need for us to like stay more on code. Now, the next thing I kind of want to talk about was the video I recently uploaded about the weight loss and the medical community. Weight loss in the medical community and some of the comments that have been under the videos. Um, I understand people's mindset about the medical community and weight loss. I totally get that. But from having 2 decades of experience, I have a different view on it. Okay. I have a very different view on it. Okay. Let me be honest. I had been dealing with, during the quarantine, I was running a lot because it was the only chance I had to get out of the house. And because I was working a lot and I was running a lot. And I already knew that I had an injury, um, once from my foot and another in my hip from my military service, like the hip injury from my military service and a foot injury that I've had from just being years of a distance runner. That injury ended up just totally derailing me. Then, as a result, I kind of had to be inactive for a long time. And then I was working extra. And then with that, we had all of this like healthcare workers appreciation and all these small businesses, from donut shops. Um, hey there, Kita. Um, yeah, I'm grateful that you put that comment up because it's something I know so little about. Um, yeah, so I'm glad you put that up, and so finding somebody who understood that from my daughter was important. So thank you for putting that comment up. Um, so the weight loss video, I just feel like, so with my personal journey, like I right now am on a weight loss journey, and I've had multiple weight loss journeys. Okay, especially after having kids, um, especially after like leaving the military where it wasn't required for me to work out, right? Um, Being derailed by injury. So I typically have an Arilostat on me. I typically have like a supplement that includes like konjac root, rubios, right? Green tea and green coffee extract, white kidney bean extract. I constantly have those things on me because I understand as I get older, the harder it's going to get. And the more I'm going to need some kind of substance. Now, my first experience with Arilostat, I was still in the military. I had just stopped nursing my first daughter. And if I'm not mistaken, I think you can nurse with Arilostats, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, but I still I was in a promotion window. I didn't want to get barred from promotion. So I started taking an Arilostat to guide in my weight loss. Here's what I learned from taking an Arilostat. The the healthcare setting I was working in, there was always a sergeant who would bring like Krispy Kreme donuts in, right? I think it was like an activated reservist who was trying to extend like an olive branch. Um, I I would eat a lot of Krispy Kreme donuts. I would do pretty good during the day, but for somehow I kept eating those donuts. Now, once I added an Arilostat, now again, you can't absorb all the fat that passes through your system. Let me tell you something. If you take your Arilostat and then you eat some Krispy Kreme donuts, more than one, which I was doing, you gonna learn your lesson. Okay, you will learn your lesson. Like you gonna learn your lesson, and sometimes we need those hard lessons. Um, yeah, it was. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because one of the yeah, you gonna learn your lesson when you mess up on your diet and you are on an Arilostat. You're gonna pay the consequences. Okay, you are going to pay those consequences more sooner than later, and you will learn. You will learn. And some people, hi, Alchemy Goddess. Yeah, some people, they need that lesson. Some people are going to need an Obera balloon and to throw up on the side of the road after they've eaten something they ain't got no business eating, or drank too fast, or had a carbonated beverage, and they're going to have to pull over and vomit on the side of the road for them to learn their lesson. Okay. When I think about like Carney Wilson and Roseanne Barr in particular, who've had um, weight loss surgery. Like, yes, they are overweight, right? They're overweight. Now, they're definitely not at their ideal body weight, but they will never go back to being 400 pounds because physiologically it's impossible. So, yeah, you're right. Like, I definitely think that the mental health care part of it is definitely true. I definitely think that going to therapy is needed if you have the surgery or not, if you get an intervention or not. Okay. You're going to need to do that. But what then happens when you have a setback? That is the issue, right? And I can say my experience with ESG from the provider end. Hey, Uppity, good afternoon. We were talking about you. Your ears must have been burning. But listen, here's my experience with ESG, my first experience with ESG. I had a patient who had to lose 100 pounds. Okay. Um, and she had lost 100 pounds before. Life happened and she gained it all the way back. All right. She gained all of that weight back. So she worked really hard and got off about 40 of them and then was kind of stuck at that 60-pound mark. Oh, Kita baby, I'm so glad. Kita baby, why don't you email me and then we can maybe talk about your experience a little bit because I think, um, yeah, I think that you have a lot to add to the conversation, and I'm really happy for you. I'm really happy for you. But so basically, this she lost 40 of the 100 pounds because so she lost the 100 pounds, and 3 years later gained it all back, which is very common, believe it or not. So then she lost 40, but that last 60 wasn't coming off. And she's like, I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it. Um, but she was ineligible for the vertical sleeve gastrectomy simply because she had lost the 40 pounds. She didn't have any comorbidities. And that's kind of when this particular physician in Dallas had talked to me about ESG. And he was kind of letting me know, like, what the game was. I was like, really? That's so interesting. And he's like, if you can send me some patients, then we can work on compensating you for trap. Now, you can legally do that, right? As a healthcare provider, send another provider patients and referrals, but I couldn't do it because of where I was working. But trust me, I called somebody and said, "Hey, sis, you want to make some money?" I call her up and be like, you know, if you want to traffic some patients to this particular bariatric surgeon, um, you know, there's some compensation involved. And actually, he was hoping that more Black women would do it. And this guy has been doing this for over 12 years. This particular surgeon, he was doing this for over 12 years, and he was hoping he wanted more Black women to come in, not just because of the money, but um, because of what he's basically seeing. Like a lot of African American women are healthier at these heavier weights, then they're not being covered for VSG, the vertical sleeve gastrectomy, right? Um, so ESG is the next best procedure, and it's half the cost, and it's patient finance. It's less. It costs less than a used Honda Civic. Like it's not. It's about. He was doing it for around $12,000 to $14,000. Um, it, so this is kind of like what the medical community is discussing. So right now, there's some legislation in place to possibly make things like this more available to Medicaid, Medicare, and I guess Obamacare recipients, right? To make it more accessible. So that means the conversation might need to start happening, right? Yeah, I agree. I agree. This conversation may need to start happening because of some some black women may find themselves being eligible when they weren't in the past, right? So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have the conversation, because I think that maybe some of you it may benefit. Like, and I pointed you ladies to that content creator, A Lifestyle by Danielle. Here is why I am so happy that she is sharing her journey with us. She doesn't owe it to us, but she's decided to share her journey with us. Here's why I'm really happy that she is. Number one, let's say they do pass this legislation and VSG, ESG becomes more accessible and available. She's already documented her journey, the ups, the downs, the highs, the lows, the challenges, and the victories. And then she also has like an Amazon curated shop of some of the tools that have helped her. So even though she's making this content now in 2021, if we end up getting this bill past 2023, that content is going to hit. Like, that content is going to slap right in the right place, and she is in a position to benefit from that. Um, Fierce ESG diva is going to be in a position to to benefit from that, because it's going to be more widely available. And then A Lifestyle by Danielle makes great content, and therefore she would be a good resource, right? Fierce ESG diva makes good content, and therefore would be a good resource. So yeah, I that's why I think what I think. So yes, do we need to change our relationship for food? Absolutely, right? But at the same time, I know that as human beings, there are going to be setbacks. You could be like me and have a physical setback. You can be like the patient I had talked about and have an emotional setback. But setbacks are going to happen. And then how do we recover from them? Right? So I'm not saying go out and get weight loss surgery at all. I'm not saying go out and get yourself in a Aurelostat at all. I'm not saying that at all. But what I am saying is, for those of you who are considering it, um, be well informed. Okay? Be well informed. Right. Right, because that's very common. It's very common. Your insurance won't approve it. That's a common problem. And then people don't know about ESG, right? Because the lap bands are are going off the market because of their lack of effectiveness rate after 10 years. Whereas ESG, I think they started the initial studies at University of Michigan um, 15, 16 years ago, because it's already existing technology. So that they just reapplied for a new use. Because I know too, Black people are always very afraid of like new medicine, new procedures, new stuff on the market, and rightfully so. But again, too, also people need to realize too, like, do you have what it takes for the follow up care? Right? Do you have what it takes for the commitment that it's going to take after the procedure is done? Or are you going to do it like some of these other people who are here in Texas, right? They'll go to Mexico, get it done, and then 5 years later, they've gained almost all the weight back because there's no follow up care, right? So, yeah, you saved yourself a couple of grand, and yeah, you've circumvented your insurance company by getting it done in Mexico, but at the same time, did you get the outcome you wanted? So, again, these are just my opinions and thoughts about it. And ultimately, ladies, you're going to make your own decisions. I find that the negative reinforcement of an aerostat helps me stay on track. Another thing that helps me stay on track is, I was just discussing this with my older sister today, are the meal prep services or the meal delivery services, like the HelloFresh, um, Home Chef, Green Chef, Primal, the I don't know, like all those My Fit Foods or whatever, those services, um, they help me stay on track. And people can say all the time, oh my gosh, it's more expensive. You can do it yourself. You can go to the grocery store yourself. If I did go to the grocery store myself, I would have done it. If I did meal prep myself, I would have done it, but I didn't. So guess what? I got a discount code for Martha Stewart's Marley Spoon and Martha Stewart going to do it for me? Because with the reality of kids and sports and work, it's not feasible for me, right? It's not feasible for me. Because what's going to happen is I'm going to end up at a drive-through if my daughter has an away game. I'm going to end up um, eating a bag of chips in the break room if I don't have something prepared because I didn't have time. Um, you know, so yeah, could I find it cheaper? Sure, but I'm not going to. I'm not going to because if I could have, I would have. So again, that's another thing too. We can't be so judgmental. Oh, hold for 1 second. Okay, thank you for waiting. But yeah, there's a content creator who I'm corresponding with online. Hopefully, she'll come onto the channel who's lost 50 pounds. And one of the things that helped her was intermittent fasting. That um, that is not going to work for me. like, that's not going to work for me. But does that mean that she's not a good content creator? Does that mean that she doesn't have valuable information? No, it doesn't. Um, so yeah, I think that she still has a lot to add, and that's like what I'm saying as a part of code. Like you telling me how expensive HelloFresh is not code. If that's what keeps me on track, then that's what keeps me on track. And if you don't think that, that's fine. Keep that opinion to yourself. But right now, it keeps me on track. Like if you are one of the people who goes to the grocery store and the farmer's market and you meal prep every Sunday and you have your little containers all in the refrigerator, all lined up in a row, that's good for you. I am not in a position to do that right now. Not with two teenage kids, not with a job, even though I'm going back to part time. Um, it's not going to happen for me. It's not going to happen for me right now. So yeah, I'm going to have to get some kind of service to come and deliver groceries because that's just where I'm at. Um, right. But anyway, I'm going to get off. But for the most part, let's stay on code, ladies, and help each other. This is Mocha Mommy, and I'll see you next video.